community, either a coaching client or a BPA community client to the Top Study Club. Be
Yeah,
curious who's already a part of our internal family and who isn't yet, but will be by the end of this because you're going to love this so much.
absolutely.
Oh,
Michelle
Hawaii. Nice.
from Sacramento said Lewis from Hawaii. Where in Hawaii? Which island? I'm just curious. All right, look at that. Oh my gosh, everybody's jumping in now. Love it.
Jamaica. We got to go
Oh,
visit these Hawaii and Jamaica folks.
Oahu. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, we're so excited you guys are here. You're in for a real treat. And again, this is just one of our favorite subjects here. So, can you see my screen? Can you?
Yes.
Oh, you can't.
I'm like, yay,
you
yes.
you were kind of you're kind of like delayed there, so
I
I was
was
a little
fixing
worried.
the chat so that everybody could see
Oh,
everyone's comments.
you're the best.
So
Awesome.
everyone can now chat with everyone versus just us. So
Awesome. 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 All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. And we have an amazing, opportunity to just talk about one of our favorite subjects here, which is the dental team aspect of things and proven retention strategies. Because you might be thinking, okay, listen, the biggest challenge is finding them and then hiring them. And now we're going to talk about how do we keep these valuable people. And the director of education here, Miranda Beeson, keeps us on point with all of this. So I'm so grateful.
we try,
Um,
Kirk, it's funny. We're just talking about Andy and he's here. Like he showed up. He's so reliable. Angela, who provides us with the CE, it pops in my inbox every Thursday before a webinar without even having to think about it. Like we have
yeah,
a team here that we work really hard to retain as well
yeah,
because it's amazing. So we're excited to share what we know with everybody else.
yeah, absolutely. So you'll enjoy this. So I did a podcast yesterday with David Moffat. He's in Australia. So he's like, I got to ask you, like, how do you do this? Do you even sleep? And I'm like, well, you'd be completely underwhelmed. I really don't do a lot. And he's like, what? And so the goal here is when you find the right people and you put the right people in the right seats, every single time you do, your practice gets better, your business gets better. It also frees up time. It also develops leaders. It's just it has this compounding effect that we're going to get into here in a little bit. But it sounds so cliche, but it is so true. It is so much fun. You get so much more done, and you have a lot more fun doing it, right?
Yeah. You just feel good. You just feel
Yeah.
good.
Amen. So speaking of feeling good, you like that transition right there? If you want to feel good about being an entrepreneur and you don't feel good right now about being an entrepreneur, change that. Let's go. You can join us at our To the Top Study Club. We're going to talk about this in a little bit. One of the things we created is our To the Top Study Club. So it's an amazing group of people that are committed as entrepreneurs to growing the practice and create a better practice and a better life. And we have our quarterly workshops. We also have our regular virtual sessions. And if you're just looking for a place where you want to belong, we believe in this so much. It is so much fun that you can come for free. It's a golden ticket. You can come hang out, kick the tires. It's an amazing day. It's a Friday usually. Actually, it's a Friday always, 8 to 3. And you're in a group with almost 50 other entrepreneurs. And it's an amazing amount of information. And you don't need to pay anything. We'll feed you, roll out the red carpet. You'll have a blast. You'll learn a ton. And if you hate it, you can go, I hated it. Nice to meet you guys. I'm going to go on my own way. I know that won't happen. So if you want to utilize a golden ticket for our To the Top Study Club, you can contact Gina, Gina, on our team, and she will facilitate the whole process. And you can come be with us. I'm going to encourage you to do that. So awesome, awesome. Now, other things I always have to let people know what we're doing. Like we keep our business model as simple as possible. We only do 3 things. You can, with all this information, we are practice coaches. That's what we do with almost 30 years of experience doing this. We created 3 different levels of service. The first one is it's called the BPA. We now have an app on the Apple App Store or Google Play. You can check it out right now. And actually, I'm going to encourage you, just go right now to the App Store. And whether you have, an Apple device or an Android, you can just search Best Practices Association and you can start the journey for free. You're going to see a lot of these resources back there. And then you can upgrade to more and more specific help and content. And it's amazing. And so that's the first level. You can do all of this on your own in the BPA. If you're like, hey, I'm just going to do this on my own, it's affordable, it's easy, and you have an amazing community back there.
You know,
Or,
our doctors that love it the most, Kirk, they pull it up on their desktop at work and they leave it up. And so, in between patients or over lunch, whatever it might be, they're in the community, they're asking questions, they're chatting with other dentists and friends. So, it's an app, but you can also watch it or participate right there on your desktop.
yeah, it's fun for me because I have the app on my phone and I get the notifications that you do, the bing, so and so just joined, bing, so and so. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to him forever. How's she doing? So it's kind of like throwing a party and having your friends all show up and share their thoughts. So, yeah, that's level one. So feel free to join us. And then level two, we already talked about our To the Top Study Club. You can do this in a group. So you can do it on your own. You can do it in a group with our To the Top Study Club, and I encourage you to join us. Or we can do it for you, do it with you. If you're just done and you've tried everything, we have our one-on-one pro coaching program where you can have an amazing coach like Miranda hold you accountable to getting done. If you're like, I've just tried everything, I just need somebody to help me get through this. That's what we do. We hold you accountable to getting results and get things done. One of the downsides of being a dentist is you don't really have entrepreneurial time. You don't have a ton of it. And so don't try to figure it all out. That's what we do. And so we work with great practices all over the country. And feel free to raise your hand. We're here to help you. So cool. Cool. Anything you would add, Miranda?
Yeah, I love that you shared that with everyone. And if you're not familiar with what we do, I think we do so many amazing things to help support the community. And we just want to bring more people into the mix to help as many people as we can. And in that pro coaching concept, we also do work with your team. So I know sometimes that's a hard thing for dentists. We're talking about team today. So I just wanted to mention, like, we also help as coaches to help you to lead your team better and also to help support your team when they have questions that maybe you don't have the answer to, so that you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. And all of these things that we create, even this today that we're recording, we store it back in the BPA. Some of you have been with us since the COVID conference. If you remember all that, we had some of the greatest technical speakers in the world offer great courses. We have that all back in the BPA. You can go revisit all of this. You can carry it with you on your phone at your fingertips. So join us in the BPA and the mobile app. So check it out. So today we're going to be talking about proven retention strategies for dental teams. This is real stuff. This is what we do. And so as we go through this, you have a question, throw it in the chat. You don't agree? Throw it in the chat. You can't hurt our feelings. I actually love a little heated debate. So let's do it because we want you, if anything, for this to be the product of your own conclusions. We want to help you through this stuff. This isn't BS. This is stuff that we do all day long. And we work hard at it too. So let's talk about why this is important, Miranda. So like retention isn't just about keeping people. It's about keeping the right people engaged and performing their best. This is a big topic. Can you just speak to that?
I think that a lot of times, one of the things that you share, what comes to mind right off the top of my mind is you share a lot when we talk with dentists about how much our energy as leaders is devoted to the team members that maybe aren't the right person for the practice. And we work so hard and we give so much energy to trying to get that person on board or turn them around, whatever it might be. And we're not really giving the energy to those right people who are really delivering that level of service and care and behavior that we're looking for all the time. So I really love the idea of how can we work intentionally to retain those right people in our practice? The ones that, oh my gosh, if they came and put a letter on your desk saying, I found a new home, I'm going to be leaving in 2 weeks, that you would just be crushed. Not that you couldn't survive, because everyone can, even when that rock star leaves. But how can you make sure that you have a plan in place to nurture those people, to fulfill those people, keep them inspired, keep them working towards the mission, feeling like they have meaningful work, so that they stay engaged in your practice and stay loyal to the mission and the vision that you have for taking care of people in your practice and in your community. So it's really not about just, we don't want you to think of this today about just, how can I keep everyone, but we're going to lean into this right person piece. And we're going to talk about that later to make sure that you're really helping give that energy to the right people in your practice.
Oh my gosh, so well said. The energy thing is a big deal because what you focus on grows. And I'm a recovering hot mess as a leader. I said that last time we were on. I used to spend all my time on people that it just wasn't working, and I just, and so it created other people that it just wasn't working, so like, and then my good people, I was neglecting them. And so, and I'm going to go there right at the beginning. Like, you as a dentist, if you're listening to this, how important is it when you find the right chairside assistant? Like, it changes your life immediately. You find the right administrative team member, everything changes financially for you overnight because they say your fees are going up. Get back there. Don't talk to patients about money. I got this. Finding the right hygienist, all the oxygen changes in your office. You're like, having the right associate, and you as a team member, if you're listening, it works for you also when you find the right dentist to work for. You're like, this changed my life the day I started here. So finding the right person and retaining them is everything. And the other thing I'll say is, we say this a lot. I'm a repeater of a lot of things, but this is one. You're going to spend 30% of your life at work. I pray you go to work and you go, I love these people. Like, I really do. I love working with them. I make them crazy a little bit, but for the most part, these are really great people because you spend so much time with them, and it's just important. And so, losing a great team member also is expensive. It's disruptive. And the reality is that turnover in dentistry is super high. And everybody's all over the map. It seems like every podcast I go on, here's the question. It's team member shortages everywhere. It's terrible. Like, how bad is it by you? And I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to get any better. This is where you got to lean into the right things. We don't want you to lose any of your great team members. And if you have your sail set with the right things, I'm here to tell you, you can keep these people. And they'll love working for you, and they'll bring other people that are like them. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, bald guy, you sound like a unicorn, but like, it's true when you lean into them, but you have to practice them consistently. So,
well, Carla just mentioned in I think that's Massachusetts, MA. It's bad here in terms of what you were just saying, the shortage of team members. So this is perfect for you, Carla, because
right.
if you can retain the team members that you have, keep those right people in place, you're not going to have to worry so much about hiring and onboarding and tracking people down and recruiting people into your practice. So
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because I'll tell you that there isn't one city in the country that everyone's like, yeah, it's crazy here. I put out one ad, I get 9 people right away. There's nobody saying that. Every practice we coach, and we coach great practices who are just looking to be better. Most every one of them has some type of personnel challenge. Some of them have placed ads for a long time. And so the point of today is like, listen, the playing field is level. If you have any friends that own a restaurant, they will tell you, we all have to up our game to find the right people. They are out there. It's just not the old days anymore. So we're going to show you how to practice in the new days. Another thing is that sustainable growth is challenging when turnover is high. You got to train somebody. And if you're as bad at hiring as I was, you're like, I got the perfect person to replace our great person. And then you're like, well, that didn't work very much. And I just lost 9 months of my life, and now.
yeah, I mean, I've worked with clients that, lose a dental assistant, and it can take half a year to find someone. So they're working with one chairside assistant. They're down to one column. How much production are they losing? How much are their patients then suffering on the other end because they're having to wait a bit longer to have services that they know that they want? So there's this long strand of impact that happens when a team member leaves. So if we can minimize turnover and retain those quality team members, you're going to reduce the risks of some of those challenge impacts that you get around time and money and energy, patient feedback.
100%. There's so much chatter about patient retention. Let's talk about team retention. So, why is it important? And so the best practices don't just hire well, they retain well. High performing practices, they get people to stay because they feel connected and valued and clear on expectations. That's a big thing that we're so high on, is making sure expectations are super, super clear in a dental practice. And another thing is that people don't leave jobs. They leave bad environments. According to a Gallup poll, only 32% of U.S. employees are engaged. Think about that. That means most people are disengaged. But the best leaders that we see in dentistry in certain workplaces, they get people engaged. And that's where team members want to stay. So your challenge is, how do I keep these people engaged? Like if you're in a relationship and the other person is disengaged, it doesn't last long. And it doesn't matter what relationship we're talking about. So how do we stay engaged? Now, number one, here's the big one. You got to build a team around core values. And Miranda, I want you to start with this one because I could spend the whole hour on this, but can you just chat about this real quick?
Yeah, no problem. So we all say here at ACT, and I think we all know at this point, that core values are the center of everything. They're what all of our decision making should filter around. The behaviors and characters of the team that we're building really should be centered around core values. And so we put this first because it's the foundation of everything. So when you have core values that are really strong in your practice, and you use the word expectations earlier, there's very clear expectations around what that core value means here. How do we behave here? How do we engage with one another? How do we engage with our patients? And there's clarity around that. And they're really alive every day in the practice. It's going to help support your team to know how to meet those expectations. You're going to attract more people that believe and value the same things you do when you're promoting your core values out to the world. So here's just a few ideas of how core values can help build team retention. When you're really set in your core values, you've done the work, which, there's plenty of webinars in the BPA on that. When you've done the work around building your core values, and they truly are the core to who you are and what you're trying to create, and then you recruit around those. When you have a hiring ad, you build your core values into that ad. We had a couple of people recently talk about interviewing within our community and some of the creative ways that they've built core values into their interviewing questions, or a pre-survey that might go out prior to even having someone come into the office and do an interview, to gauge a little bit around how does this potential team member connect to our core values. What do they resonate with? Are they going to, fit in here? If you have a small team, you're one doctor and you have 6 team members, a couple of hygienists, a couple of assistants, maybe one front office team member, and someone leaves and you're replacing them, you really have to make sure that that next person is a true values fit for your practice. Because anyone listening, you've been there, you've done it. When that person doesn't align with your values, everyone on the team can feel it. It stands out. So you can build it into your hiring ads. You can build it into your interviewing process from the very jump. Here's what we stand for here, or here's a core value in our practice. Tell me how you would demonstrate that day in and day out. Which one of these core values do you resonate with the most, and just show them all of them. Once you find that person who is integrated to your core values and you do hire them and bring them on board, from day one, we're building those core values into our onboarding conversations. We're having those conversations at Huddle, in our team meetings. We talk about having a committee for the success of a new team member that comes on board. And you might have certain people on that committee that really embody your core values naturally really well, so that they're emulating and sharing that with the new team member, so that it's a part of their core of being in the practice from day one. And then in the end, feedback loop. Anytime you're having to provide feedback with a team member, you can always tie it into a core value, because it's usually not the person that's the problem. It's that person not aligning in their action with a core value or a behavior expectation within the practice. So being able to also tie those core values into that feedback loop. So really, in every engagement with a potential team member and then eventual true team member, should be tied to and correlated around core values and the behaviors that we perform here in this practice.
Right. Now, I'm just going to speak to maybe the naysayer that's listening to this, because I was you. Like prior to COVID, I'm going to go back to 2015. Like somebody said, "Oh, you got to build the team around core values." I was like, yeah. Totally get it. Totally get it. It's somebody I would want to have a beer with. Next, what's the next thing? Like, give me the next thing. And what I did was I skipped over it. I didn't really lean into it and figure it out. And what I've found out the hard way is that your favorite people that you'll ever meet care about the same things that you care about. And so you have to put your flag in the ground and go, these are behaviors. I like to call them, they are behaviors. They're verbs. They're not aspirations like excellence and integrity. You got to have integrity just to get in the door,
Mhm.
But like, I'll give you like my king value, our king value here is all in attitude. Like, I absolutely refuse to talk to anybody who's not like an all in type person. And if you think about it, like, once you do this, all the crazy stuff that you've ever dealt with, it slowly starts to go away. I'm not kidding. Like, you're like, but you've got to hold these high. And when you have a
Mhm.
difficult conversation like what you're talking about, Miranda, you can just go right to the values thing and go, listen, you cannot talk to other people that way here because one of our core values is all in. You also can't say that's not my job. You know what I mean? Like that. I take out the trash. Barrett cleans the carpets here. Like he's our CEO. We don't have that mentality that it's not my job. And that's the stuff that makes you crazy. So you got to build a team. And now the other thing I'm telling you is like everyone's looking for the quick win. Like, is it a bonus? Is it like is it a hiring stipend? What is it? Like, is it benefits? What you're going to see today is this is the long tail. Like we're helping you build a practice. You're not going to like this for 100 years. And if you do that, if you think like I'm going to build this thing that it lasts for 100, not that you would practice for 100 years, but you would do it the right way. You would build a great team around the right stuff, and that no matter what happens in dentistry, you're going to be okay. So it's important. Now, once you've put the flag in the ground of like, these are our core values, we're not going back. Now you've got to establish a consistent rhythm of communication. And this is a big one. You've got to set up a way that you're connecting with team members the right way. I know one of the most important disciplines you'll ever do as a practice owner is create a systemized check-in. It's a check-in with each one of your team members. Now you have to get a little creative, and Miranda's going to talk about that, but it's a sit down proactively with team members where you do something like this: personal high, personal low, professional high, professional low. What does support look like from me? And it's an opportunity where you get to know them way beyond the role, not just checking in with them whenever they're pissed off or not
Or
happy
you are.
or you are, or you say, we have to talk. And they're not performance reviews. If you're listening to this, I'm going to say this and you're not going to like this. Stop doing performance reviews. They're the biggest waste of time ever. And they don't provide what you want long term. They're really appointments to talk about my raise, and you give people a hush raise, and then it goes on. And you're like, why aren't things getting better? That's why we encourage everybody to go to a check-in. You go, Marina. What would you add to that?
Perfect segue. A lot of practices will start with that annual performance review. That's when they check in. Maybe after the first 90 days that someone's on board, they have a check in, and then a year after that, and then it's just on that year wheel. And like you said, a lot of times team members are not hearing what you're saying because they're just waiting to hear, do I get a raise this year? And so, also from the leadership side, why would we wait a year to provide any type of connection or feedback around how someone is performing or how we feel like they're measuring up against the behaviors we expect in the practice? A much better way to get potential high performance and potential out of someone, to really really pull their potential out, is to make sure they know that you care about them, you care about their success in the practice, you see them as a human being that's also a resource, right? Human resource that helps to support the growth of the practice. And one of the best ways to do that is to have consistency with time that's intentionally carved out to meet with those people. So what I think is really great. So Craig Groeschel talks about being a great leader. It comprises three things: transparency, consistency, and empathy. And a monthly check in, one on one with your team members, is an excellent way to provide a consistent time and place that they know they will be able to speak with you, connect with you, get support from you, and provide feedback to you. There's consistency within that system when it's built in with appointments that they know are there. You know what? I need to talk about something, but I have that check in coming up in just about 2 weeks. I'm going to jot that down. I'm going to bring that to my check in, right? Transparency. When you have the ability to really just sit down, you're not rushed, it's not in between patients, it's not over lunch with everyone else around you. It's just the two of you sitting there being able to really talk about how you truly and genuinely are doing right now in this moment. And again, we're going to talk about the agenda where we talk about personal high, personal low, professional low, and also some coaching and notes on what is that person wanting to do to help impact the practice and grow and develop, and how can we as leaders support that and be more supportive in their day to day. So there's that transparency, us being able to truly communicate on a regular basis. And then empathy. Like we do have to recognize that personal is built into that check-in on purpose because people are human beings. They're people. It's not just someone showing up and checking the box. If we really want a high performance team and we want to retain people, we have to care about them as people. And that's where the empathy comes in. It gives you this space. If somebody sits down and says to you, I'm really struggling. I live in a military community. My husband's deployed. It's really hard. I've been having a hard time getting the kids to daycare on time. I half the time I don't even get them to practice on time. I don't have laundry done on the weekend. Like that's important for you as a leader to be able to say, how can I support you in that? And know that we aren't then going to create stories in our own mind as leaders about what's going on with that team member if perhaps they're a few minutes late. They've shared with us that they're struggling and we're going to offer support. So that's that empathy piece. The key here is it's monthly, it's scheduled, it's intentional. The team members are signing themselves up for these check-ins, and they always have the next subsequent one signed up as well. So that before you leave from that one-on-one check-in, you're saying, okay, when is the next time that we're going to sit down and connect with one another? It's creating this dedicated space to just be together and to connect and address concerns and show them that they truly matter and that their opinions are valid and valuable. It's really important to get really clear expectations with your team when you start a system of check-ins, that this isn't going to be about raises. We're not giving raises at check-ins. This isn't really about performance reviews. If there's a performance issue that can be dealt with separately, this is a place to connect and support and receive feedback. And it's really great to give that space to your team member to be able to share with you if they're getting what they need from you as a leader as well.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I love what you said. A couple of things. If you're a dentist, is like patients come second, team members come first. And remember, this is a system. This is a built-in system where you're just giving space, like Miranda said. And as a business owner, I'm just going to challenge you because that's what we do. What you do regularly screams you care or you don't care. Now you can say, oh, I care a lot. Well, show me what you do that supports what you just said. And they go, well, I give them I take them shopping and Christmas. I'm like, that's not, no, 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 no. Like it's a regular sit down where you're literally listening. Now the key here is that the team member's running it. You're just showing up with your head and your heart. You're proactively mitigating any future challenge. So when we talk about retention, if you've ever had this conversation, I have, where somebody's like, okay, I hate to tell you this, but I have to give you my notice. You're like, oh my gosh, where did this? She's like, and then you have a team member who's like, I haven't been happy for like a year. You're like, oh, like how would I? When did this start? And you were just completely blindsided. When you're proactively doing a check-in, it's going to show up way in advance before they would quit. They're going to tell you, listen, I'm just a little unhappy about this. And you're going to go, wow. Remember, you're also giving space to like some of their talents. Instead of you determining what their talents are, they're going to start saying, I think I could do that. I think I could do that. And you're like, wow, some of the greatest team members I've ever had, including Miranda, and like they've told me during a check-in, I can do that. And you're like, whoa, you can? So it's pretty cool when you leave space for that. Now, if you're wondering how to do it, you can go back on the BPA. We have a whole system for it. You can see it actually has a tutorial, a guide, there's a check-in form, and a lot of the practices in the BPA community will just print off that form. They create a stack of them, and a team member will just grab it and just fill it out. You can actually see a filled out example of what it would look like if you go back there and check it out. So good stuff. And number 3, let's go to number 3. So we've talked about number 1 and number 2, and now we're going to create this feedback consistency. So let's talk about how to do that. Now, again, Miranda, this is one of those things I can chat forever. I want you to start on this. So tell us about how we do that.
So we were just talking about the fact that the check-in, the one-on-one monthly check-in, isn't for performance review. We're not talking about that necessarily. We're just connecting. However, quarterly, you are going to and can build in a right people, right seat scorecard conversation with your team members, which can then lean in more to that performance aspect. So let's talk a little bit more about what that is. We said this morning at the beginning of the webinar, oh, it's been all day already, that the right people, right? We're trying to retain the right people. And so we're going to really identify what does it mean to have the right people as we go through what the scorecard is. But one of our tools is a right people, right seat scorecard. And to really be able to provide feedback to your team, there needs to be very clear expectations of what does it mean to be the right person here in this practice, and what does it mean to be in the right seat. And so I know you're going to share some of this, but basically the right person is do they fit our core values? And can we provide insight and feedback as to what we're seeing that says yes, and some of the things that maybe we're seeing and behaviors we're seeing that say maybe not so much. And we'll talk about how that gets measured when we take a peek at the scorecard. The other part of it is, are they in the right seat? And this tends to be what we do without any structure in the practice. We're often evaluating without even realizing that we're evaluating, is this person in the right seat? Because this is do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? Because a lot of the times the feedback that we're providing in the dental practice without structure like this is reactive to someone not meeting the expectations of, the room is prepped and ready every single time we're there. They never have to get up and leave to get anything. The hygienist is always there when I come in for the exam, not hanging out in the hallway and I have to beckon her to come in and do a handoff, right? Those are things that if we're really clear around the expectations of the roles, we can provide that feedback in a more structured and consistent way where we can coach them and help mentor them into those seats and those roles. And then learn also that maybe we're not. Maybe we're not in the right seat, but there's a better seat for you if you are the right person. And sometimes we realize, this person just might not be the right person for our practice. So this scorecard helps us to say, is this the right person? Are they consistently measuring up to the values that we hold high here in the practice? And are they in the right seat? Do they understand their role, their job description? Do they get it? And do they really want it? They show up all in every day. And do they have the capacity to do it? This scorecard helps to eliminate surprises on your side and theirs. And it helps to give the team member a roadmap for improvement, because most team members really do want to succeed and do well. Most of them really do. And so you actually incorporate this into that communication rhythm once a quarter. It becomes a part of your check-in.
Yeah, I love that. Everybody would agree, I think, right person, right seat changes everything, but it's very subjective. It's very like lofty. It's very like wordy. This is a system. It's a system that we have that you can just put it in place right away, and it cuts through all the subjective conversation and the wordiness, and it starts to give clarity to the team member and the dentist about like what it means to be right person, right seat. So now if I'm a team member and I get this and I'm committed to this job, I know exactly how to get better at what I need to do in order to be able to support this. I also know what I need to be working on in order to stay here if you've set the bar very carefully. So it's really important. Now, a couple of things I'll just add to this. I want you guys to write this down. I was like, whenever I say that, it's just the stuff I want you to know. You only hire people for 2 reasons, not 6, not 3, not because they're nice, not because they came with 3. You're only going to hire people for the rest of your career for 2 reasons. The first reason is what Miranda said. They fit your core values. So you have stated core values, their behaviors, their non-negotiables. It's what makes your practice work. Okay, so that's the first reason. The second reason you hire them is they get results. They're actually good at their job. They get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. If their job is to collect money, they're actually pretty good at it. If their job is to do hygiene, they're actually really good at it. If their job is to be a treatment coordinator, they're actually really good at it. And so now you've defined clearly, and I do mean clearly, right person, right seat. So it's GWC. Now, think about this. Let's go to the other side. Every personnel problem that you ever have is only one of 2 things, or sometimes it's both. It's either a right person problem or it's a right seat problem. You might have a great hygienist, but she doesn't like working with other people. Do you know what I mean? Like she just doesn't like other team members. That's a right person problem. That is not a Corvette. And you got to be able to call that out. Or you might have somebody that came with the practice. She's really sweet. She works at the front. She's been here for 30 years, but she can't collect money. And her number one job is to collect money. Now, in most cases, those people we can find a role because I'll take anybody who's a right person
Mhm.
and put them in place. So what we want to do as a result of all this is really simplify this so that you don't come up with weird stories or thoughts or emotions. It's a scorecard that you use regularly to give people a clear line of sight and how to succeed. Now, here's what happens when you use it. Pete Dawson said this to me at the ripe old age of 24. He said, when you have the right people, you can produce twice as much in half the time with a quarter of the stress. We have a lot of dentists right now that we coach. They have like monster months. I just talked to one this week, like, oh, how did you do that? They're like, that's my largest month ever of all time by a long shot. And then I always go, what was the secret? And they never say, I'm pretty amazing now. They never say that. They go, I'll tell you, we're organized and we have like, I got the right person here. I got the right person. It's always, I got the right person. I got the right person. I got another person. Oh, and I can't wait to tell you about my treatment card. I have a treatment card. And it's always about the right people in the right seats. You can see that in sports. You can see it in a dental practice. You can see it in any business. When you get the right people in the right seats, you also don't have to micromanage. You're like, I don't even know how they do it. Here's a good thing to write down. Don't try to figure out how. Just figure out who. And if you can,
Kirk, a little something you just made me think about this because I have the coach mindset, right? I work with teams. So things like this pop up. And oftentimes when we get on a call with a client, there will be some team member issue that they want to talk about. Somebody did something this week. It's driving me crazy. Or you can see it as soon as you get on the call. They're a little frustrated. Something's going on. What happened today? Well, I ended up with another new patient in my chair that really isn't right for the practice. Susie's just not doing a good job up there of making sure the right people get in the seat and whatnot. And what I always say as a coach, and one of the things that we lean into with ACT is it's really not about that person. It's generally around not meeting the expectation. It's something's probably rubbing against a core value. If there's somebody on your team that just doesn't feel quite right, there's something in your gut. Like you said, I want to be able to go in and know that these people are on my side. I love them. Like I love being with them. We feel good in the practice. But if there's that person, like if you're listening right now and there's that one person, it's not really about that person. It's about the values. They're probably rubbing against a core value in some way. And when you can bring the core value into the conversation and have a conversation with that person that focuses on how do we bring this value to light, now, you might find out eventually they just don't resonate with that value, and that's an answer for you. But majority of the time, it's just about expectations, and they didn't realize that behavior was so important if we haven't really shared it consistently. I like to use the example of if a team member, or excuse me, if a practice has a core value that's around embracing growth. I used to work in a practice that was very innovative, always learning new things, incorporating new technologies. And if you weren't someone who valued that and you were more comfortable, doing kind of the same thing over time because growth isn't really important to you, you're not going to fit into that practice. So when we go all the way back to what we were saying in the beginning, this stuff all ties together. You're going to recruit an interview around those core values. You're going to ask at the interview, one of our core values is embracing growth. Tell me about the last continuing education course that you really enjoyed or whatnot. And if someone says to you, well, I haven't been to CE in a while. The last doctor I worked for, he never paid for CE. He never took us to CE. Now I know that it's not an innate value in that person to seek out growth and opportunity because they were waiting for it to be given to them versus someone who says, I went to ADHA last year. I was really excited to learn about the GBT protocol, and I didn't even know they had changed pre-medication guidelines. I'm way behind on that. That's the type of person that's going to fit your embrace growth value. And so that all carries over into this right people, right seat concept. Because if someone isn't measuring up in that way, you can say, you know what? It's weird. We got tickets to Hinman. Everybody was so excited. And then Susie's over there causing all this drama because she doesn't want to go and she doesn't want to have to hang out with us all weekend and yada, yada, yada. If Susie embraced growth as a natural value, she'd be all in on that trip to Hinman and she'd be so appreciative that you were investing in her. And so then you can have a conversation around that value and not necessarily, Susie, you're really bringing everybody down, right? It's more like, hey, can we talk for just a minute about this opportunity we have to go learn and grow together? And you can start talking about that core value and not just that person. It was a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
long-winded example to try to bring it to light.
No, but it's so good. It's so good. And I could just piggyback on that. Or Susie's drama creation, this bad behavior, they're like weeds. You have this beautiful garden, and this behavior, it's like weeds in your garden. And you, as the owner, have to weed the garden or the weeds take the garden. Does that make sense? When you're weeding this garden, it's a beautiful garden and it creates more beauty. You just have to be on top of it. Now, that sounds hard, but what makes it easy is the right person, right seat scorecard. You can clearly state that that is not within our values. And the more that you do this, the better the garden gets. The more they find other people that would fit here, I'm telling you, it works. So Pete said this, when you have the right people, you can produce twice as much in half the time with a quarter the stress. I took the opposite. Pete didn't say this, but I just took the opposite. Sorry, Pete. And I basically did the reverse math. When you have the wrong people, you can produce, or you produce half as much in twice the time with 4 times the stress. You just do. When people are like it isn't working, I can't produce enough, this is usually a leadership issue. It's the leader hasn't decided what kind of team are we going to create, what kind of behaviors, what kind of fabric are we looking in the people that are going to work here, and we're going to go in this direction. And I'll tell you, it's an uphill battle your entire career. And then what happens is this uphill battle, it makes you salty. You actually believe there's no good people out there. The world is full of dental employees who don't want to work. And that's a terrible place to be because I'll tell you, there's a ton of them out there. We meet so many amazing team members. The challenge is you got to find out how they're going to work in your office. So it's true, it does work. Now, when it comes to the right person, right seat scorecard, I don't want to get into the details of it, but you'll see back there in the BPA, we have the entire tutorial, the steps, how to use it, and how to explain it to your team members. We even have videos back there. So you don't have to figure this on your own. We've already done it. So you can go back there and check it out and start to use it. It's one of those systems that's not the easiest to start. I'm going to tell you that up front. But once you get it going, you're going to go, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this from day one? And every month and every quarter you use it, you're going to see your practice is going to get a little bit better, a little bit better. And you won't even know why, but you can trace it back to the right person scorecard. And the goal ultimately, if you're a young dentist or even a mature dentist, is like, how do I get 100% of the people around here in the right people, right seats? Now, you may never get there, but if you get 80% of those people there, you're crushing it. You're absolutely crushing it. So it's good stuff. Now, the other one is appreciation. And I want you to talk about this, Miranda, because appreciation is often like, that's a big concept. So take us through this.
So people who feel valued are going to stay longer. Bottom line, like we talked about earlier, most people, when you think about engagement from team members, 32% of people are engaged in the workplace. And we also have that stat of most people don't leave a practice or a business, they're leaving a leader or a boss. If they're not feeling valued or supported or invested in, then they're not going to stick around long term. So simple appreciation can go a really long way. And appreciation isn't one size fits all. We have to learn what makes each person tick, what makes each person feel valued. If you go to the next slide, Kirk, click that one more time. Yeah. So there is a difference between recognition and appreciation. And I think this is worth talking about because I believe that what I experience is most dentists do a good job with recognition. They do a really good job with recognizing and praising the achievements or actions that an employee takes around a specific task or job. And that's really what recognition is. When we can say, thanks, good job, right? Around a particular task or perhaps responsibilities within their role. And recognition is important. There's some statistics out there that talk about how much more, and I think we might have it on a future slide. You can wait for now, but how much more productive team members are when they feel recognized for their efforts and accomplishments. But there is a slight distinction between recognition and appreciation, because appreciation is a much broader expression of gratitude for an employee, and it focuses on their personal qualities and their character, not necessarily accomplishing a job performance. So recognition is more about what someone does and acknowledging that, where appreciation is more about who they are and acknowledging that. And when people are genuinely seen as individuals and we can recognize their character and the contribution that you specifically bring to this team, it goes a lot further than recognition. So think about it.
Yeah.
If I'm a dental assistant and I'm getting praised for my chair side, four-handed dentistry, like, man, I'm on it. I know I can anticipate your actions. I know exactly what you need. That the procedure always goes really well. And you thank me for that. That's awesome. But honestly, any dental assistant could come sit in and do that.
Yeah.
Right. But if there's something about the way that I live our values, or something about my character that makes patients feel a certain way, or something that I bring with my energy that you can compliment that kind of lightens the atmosphere, or I'm a true leader and I really help to keep things on track. I think you mentioned having someone who's a like culture catalyst in the practice, that you can appreciate that in a different way, because that is very unique to who I am, not just what I do. Because you can have somebody sit there and do excellent four-handed dentistry, anticipate your needs, provide you with the instrument that you need right when you need it, but they might not be that person that really fits in your practice, right? That makes things feel good. So when you talk about what's more important, is it the what I do, or is it the who I am and my character that we really want to celebrate and appreciate? And I think it's a little bit of both. But I think what we do naturally in dentistry is lean into recognition. So we started talking about how to kind of systemize building in this appreciation side as well, that really speaks to the individual and what makes them feel valued.
Yeah, this is so good. Now, if you're bad at this naturally, like I am, you might think, well, when am I going to do this? Like, when do I show people recognition and appreciation? Again, all of this is woven in. That's why the system of the check in and the right person, right seat scorecard, by using all of this, you have naturally built in a system. Because if you don't, what you do is you sprinkle it on everyone. Oh, you're great. You're great. You're great too. You're great too. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate that's what you say on the way out every day. And then if you don't do this and you don't vet those weeds in your practice, you have team members that you actually don't even like. They're just there because they're good at their job. And you haven't really guided them as far as how to behave in the practice. So what you do is you give false appreciation.
Mhm.
Which is you say, I really appreciate you, or you don't do it at all because your face you can't even do it. Like you can't even muster up the words to say it. And that is a functional problem that you've created as a leader. And that is real. That is real. I have actually felt my muscles in my face. I'm like, I can't even, I can't even tell this person. I don't even, I can't. If I do, and that was my fault that I was tolerating that, because what you tolerate, you promote. So I want you, I feel like,
And there is a difference between saying thank you, although that's still, I mean, that's still nice, right? It's
right,
still nice at the end of the day for a doctor to say before they walk out the door, thanks guys for a great day. That's still very nice. There's nothing
right.
wrong with doing that. But there is something different than doing that when your shoulder, bags over your shoulder and you're walking out the door, than it is to sit eye to eye with someone on your team and say, my days run smoother because of you. Our patients have better experiences here because of how much you care about them. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate that and how much that means to me.
Yeah.
Because in reality, we do need to be grateful for those team members that really do bring it every single day. And we need to give them that energy, because they could go anywhere. They could work anywhere. Everyone's hiring and offering incentives and this, that, and the other, and $10 more an hour down the street. So showing that appreciation and showing that gratitude. And there is a difference between a blanket thank you in something that's really connected to who you are and what you're providing here in this practice as an individual.
Yeah, and as if you're a coaching client of ours, you know we make you do this. And ultimately the biggest benefit of this is yes, you retain people, but what you're really doing, which is even a bigger benefit, is you're creating leaders. You're creating leaders that know how to talk to other leaders, that know how to talk to, you're going to be doing the check-ins, but then they're going to learn how to do the check-ins, and they're going to learn how to grow people, and they're going to learn how to talk to people about their values. And every time that happens, everybody gets better, and it frees up more and more of your time. I'm telling you, it absolutely works. And so you have to do this. Now, the appreciation thing, I want you to talk about this because appreciation, there's a lot of data around appreciation.
Oh, this was what I was mentioning earlier. There was a study out of the Haas Business School in UC Berkeley, and people who were recognized, so remember the difference, recognition, so recognized for the work they did well, were 23% more effective and productive than those who were not recognized. So again, we said that's still valuable to thank someone for the job they did, right? The
Yep.
what you did. However, individuals, oh, I lost
Oh,
that slide
hold
on
on.
where the, I
Sorry.
was gonna say, individuals who feel appreciated for who they are, right? And valued as people in the practice, cared for by the team and the leader, are going to be 43% more effective and productive in the workplace. So while both are important and provide an added value and motivation, ultimately that's what it boils down to. A team member is going to be that much more motivated when they feel recognized, but even more so when they feel appreciated for genuinely who they are, not just what they did.
Yeah. So good. So good. Now, if you've ever read Gary Chapman's book, The Five, Languages of Love, which is an awesome thing, he actually created additional work for the workplace. Can you talk about this, Miranda?
Yeah,
Talk about it.
basically there's 5 segments of ways that people like to feel appreciated, and it's really great to find out from your team members what their preferences are. So words of affirmation, so verbal and or written acknowledgement is really important to actually most people. These are in order of what people genuinely prefer in the population. Quality time, being able to spend some one-on-one time. I often tell the story of how I had a chocolate drawer in the office when I was administrator, and I knew who enjoyed quality time because they were the ones who would come in to get chocolate, but really it was just so they could kind of hang out and chat a little bit and get some time with me, which was awesome because I love that too. Acts of service, when to help someone who is an active service person, that's their appreciation language. Doing small things for them can make a big difference. If you have a hygienist who feels valued through acts of service, and doctor, office manager, leader on the call, if you have a few minutes and they're running behind and they show up after they walk their patient out and you're cleaning their op for them, oh my gosh, that goes such a long way more than a card would, saying thank you if that's truly their love language or appreciation language. The next is gifts, which I just like to always preface doesn't have to be bonus or, a check. It can be a donation to a charity that means something to them. If their father passed from pancreatic cancer and you donate to the association, they're very involved in, or you have a ice cream truck show up at the office at the end of the day and gift everyone with whatever ice cream they pick. You can get really creative around that. I think a lot of times we just lean right into a, TJ Maxx gift card, but it doesn't always have to be dollar for dollar in terms of that gift. It can even be something personal that's created. It's more the act of the gift and the thought than a monetary amount when it comes to that one. And then the last one is physical touch, which of course in the workplace we say appropriate physical touch. For me, I love a good high five. Anybody who's heard me talk about this before, when you get a real good contact on a high five and it's loud and it just feels good, that is something that resonates with me and makes me feel like you appreciate me and you understand that that's something that lights me up and gets me a little pumped up and excited. So if you go to the next slide, we have an example of a tool that we have developed where we can actually work through what are some things that we can do in our practice to feed these different appreciation styles so that I think there might be one more, Kirk. There you go. So if you decide to find out from your team, we have a sample survey of how you could survey your team. We just did this internally, but we did it digitally with a type form to learn a little bit about each team member, what they want to be acknowledged for, what things matter the most to them, how do they like to feel appreciated? Again, do they like verbal? Do they prefer gifts or a nice high five? Do you want it in private or in public? Because some people might be words of affirmation, but they're mortified if you bring it up at a team meeting. But they would love it to just be one on one or a card left on their operatory counter. And
Yeah.
so you can build this in as a system into your practice. A lot of the doctors in our To the Top study club recently talked about how they have spreadsheets that the whole team can access because sometimes they want to celebrate and appreciate each other, even. It doesn't always have to come from leadership down.
Yeah, I love this. You know, a couple things you said. This is a system. So this is really important. You can put this into play. And the other thing that Gary Chapman's work did for me that was so transformational is, Miranda, you already said it. It's like you learn about these things. First of all, is being aware. And then I learned the hard way. Mine is words of affirmation. I felt loved and appreciated that way, but I was burying everybody with my love language. And I found that's not effective. You know, Sarah's is quality time. So like I could say whatever I want, but when I spend a lot of time with her, like it's an epiphany. Now, the same thing applies in your workplaces. Like some people don't have the same language that you do. So you got to be speaking the same language. And
Mhm.
Miranda created these, you know, these study guides that you can use in these systems right in your practice. So you don't have to overthink this and figure this out. So good. I love it. Now, lastly, number 5, we've got to empower and elevate our team. Now, these are big words, but like I want you to take us through that. What does that even mean? People say empower all the time. Like I want to know, like, how do we empower and elevate people? And I love the plow system. So explain what that means.
So I think that something that we hear really often in coaching is how do we get our team to really want this too, right? Your team doesn't own the practice you do. You have way more skin in the game than they do. And so if you feel like you have a team that you're constantly kind of having to pull them into the game to get them to really dive in, a lot of that comes from maybe they don't have the autonomy or they haven't been empowered in a way to feel like they have a place or a role in getting the practice where you want it to go. So there's this really strong tie between our vision and then what impact I specifically have and what my role has on the vision for the practice. And how can we tie those two things together to make sure that the team member knows how important they are to the long term vision of the practice and that we're doing everything we can to help fulfill them in their personal and professional journey. So, Kirk, if you go to the next slide, this is an example of the worksheet that we often use when we're working with teams on this. And if you go even one more, it kind of breaks down each of those steps. So, the P in PLOW stands for position currently, and just learning from your team members more about how they're feeling and thinking of themselves in the practice. So, tell me a little bit about your position currently. Where are you right now in your work? Are you satisfied? Do you need some support? Just tell me about like the things you like or don't like when you go into the L. What do you like? What do you love? What do you enjoy most about your career or your role? You're really helping to get them thinking about their own impact in the practice. O leans into opportunities. Are there opportunities within your role right now that could help take this practice to the next level? How can we support you in that? And W is around wand or wish. If you were given a magic wand and granted one wish overnight to change something about your current role here, what would it be? And these open ended questions in this process, it really just gives the team member a space to be able to share their thoughts with you. I promise you, the majority of your team members have thought about things they think they could do better or different. Like you said, you learn in check ins a lot of times from team members, like, oh, I could do that. I could take that on. Hey, I've been thinking this thing might help us get where we're trying to go. So, this is a tool that gives them the space to brainwrite and explore how they can provide even more impact into where the practice is going and empower them to be a stronger part of the team. And when they're invested in that, it's going to feel more meaningful and then they're not going to want to go anywhere.
Yeah, I love it. And I don't know who we should give credit. I don't know where plow came from. I can't remember who it was, but it's so if you're watching this and you gave it to us, thank you. It really does work. And if you use this acronym And let's go to the L one, like or love. I'll just add one thing that I've done. And I've even done this with you, Miranda.
Mhm.
Like when you have an amazing team member like Miranda and they're stressed, don't do like or love, do love and loathe. Like create a column of things you love, things you loathe, because a really great performer is not having fun when they're spending a lot of energy on the loathe. That you know this, regardless of who they are, they have to spend the majority of their time in the love section. And this is where you as a leader can go, okay, tell me about this. Tell me about, you loathe that? Okay. Well, we can't have you spending your time doing that. You can be smart enough to figure out, just in that simple conversation, how do we slowly move you to the other side of the fence? So,
And spending this time with a team member going through this is another way to show them how much you value them and appreciate them, that you're taking the time and initiative to help mentor and coach them to be the best version of themselves here in the workplace.
yeah. And as you go further down into opportunities, you're going to find people that jump positions. I was just in Dr. Richard Morales's practice. A team member who was a hygienist, she's like, I don't want to be a hygienist anymore. I think I could do that job really well. And now she's at the administrative area and she's crushing it. And so it's fun to hear these stories that if you allow space and you have a
Mhm.
system, people will tell you, I want to move here. We've even had it at Act Dental. I've had team members go, I want that job. And you're like, whoa, that's so cool. And then also you improve the practice by doing this. When you get to the wish part, they give you great ideas. You're like, that is a great idea. I would have never thought of that. And they're like, I wish we would do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So it has multiple benefits. And so when you talk about empowering your team and elevating your team, I could just go on forever. The other thing is team members see you listening to them. They're actually like, he listened to me. Like he actually asked me the questions and he listened to what I said. Now you were following a system. So that's really important. They stay engaged, because one of the things you're wondering is like, how do I keep people engaged? Well, one of the things you could do to keep them engaged is allow space, listen to them, and then do something about it, because it shows that the feedback loop is working in the practice. So it's
Yep.
great stuff.
And engaged employees stay.
They do.
Yep.
They do. As
So
simple
we
as
have
that.
a few takeaways. We're right, 301. I did put the CE in the chat, but we have just a few final thoughts for you and then one kind of actionable takeaway for you. So I think it's really important to just remember that, like, if you don't feel like you're at a place to take a lot of this on and this feels a little bit overwhelming, you don't have to do all of it at once, right? Just one thing at a time. You were trained to fix teeth, right? You weren't taught in dental school how to be a leader. You're not listening to leadership podcasts. You're doing some class 2s and making sure that you have really high quality dentistry. So this is something that you have to invest in, continuing education wise, the same way that you invest some time into learning a new clinical technique. Your team needs this from you. And ultimately, you need this for your team because it will make your
Yes.
life so much easier when you can put the right people in the right seats and then keep them there. The amount of stress that will be reduced for you if you can make this happen as a leader is immense. So you weren't necessarily prepared for this because you were so busy preparing your clinical skills. And once you've got that down, start leaning into that leadership side and creating that intentional strategy to connect. And small, consistent efforts can create big, long lasting change. So, again, we just went through 5 strategies, 5 concepts. You're not going to be able to take it on all at once. But if you can just take small bites to start building that stronger team, in time, you're going to sit back and say, oh my gosh, like it feels so different here. You know what? I don't even worry about that thing I used to worry about anymore because we've gotten the team into a place where everyone's empowered and we're sharing the load and we all appreciate one another. And the last point to remember is that retention isn't just about keeping people. Like we said in the very beginning, it's about keeping the right people. So a really strong values driven team is what's going to fuel your practice success. It's going to what minimize your stress, keep you from having to answer those phone calls on your drive home from the person that wants to fuss at you at the end of the day once you leave the practice about the other person who drove her crazy all day. When you can get the right people in your practice who fit your culture and your values, all of that stuff starts to go away. What do you say? It's like a crazy repellent.
It's a weed repellent. Now, what we're really telling you about is when you start to do this is all leadership. So Miranda's given you 5 systems. And really, at the end of the day, what's happening is you're becoming a better leader.
Mhm.
Rarely, if ever, does an amazing team member outgrow the dentist and stay. They get bored. Here's the downside. The downside of having great people is you have to challenge them and you have to get better. It works in the same respect for them. The better they get, the better you have to get. And this is a process where you'll get better. You'll become more consistent. You'll weed out these behaviors. You'll get better behaviors. Your team members will grow. You'll grow other leaders. It has a compounding effect, not only in the practice, but your happiness and ultimately your productivity. So it's so much fun. I promise you it works. It's not the easy button, but it is a strategic system you can use. So give us some 5 last takeaways.
Yeah. So really I always like a little bit of a call to action. I want to challenge you a little bit. I'm a coach. That's what I do. So think about the 5 things we talked about today. These 5 aspects or strategies: building that strong team that's around core values, establishing a consistent communication rhythm, a place and a time to consistently connect, provide feedback consistently. We talked about the right people, right seat scorecard as a tool to help facilitate doing that. Demonstrating appreciation, really starting to think about that difference between recognition and appreciation and how can you individualize that in your practice. And then lastly, empowering and elevating your team. So which one of these retention strategies, because Lord knows you're not gonna be able to take on all 5 at one time, just one, which one would you like to lean into right now as a leader? So reflect back on this. The recording of this, by the way, will be in the basic space within the Best Practices Association. There was a question about that in the chat. These tools are in the BPA as well within our premium space. But go back and listen to this recording again, watch this recording and ask yourself, where could I get the most impact, right? Maybe where's the strongest level of deficit in my practice right now? And just pick one and start leaning into your team within that space, within that strategy, and start seeing the difference. And once you get a rhythm of that one, great, layer in another one. And then eventually you'll be in a place where your team really starts to show up and you'll start to see and experience for yourself the difference of how it feels when you have a really long-standing, strong, dedicated team.
Love it. So well done, Miranda. Do we have any questions in the chat?
I haven't seen any questions aside from asking about the recording and the resources. So, yeah, I think that's it. I did, like I said, I put the CE in the chat. So if you haven't hopped in the chat yet, go ahead and grab that link and the code so you can make sure you can get your continuing education for today. And then join us in the BPA. Again, if you sign up for the app or create an account for free, you will have access to the recording of this as well as every other event recording we've ever had. There's a huge library there and upcoming events, upcoming webinars and other events that we might be hosting. And then if you're looking for those resources, they're just right there in the premium space within the
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Miranda, as always, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for appreciating and investing as me as a team member so that I want to stay.
It's life changing. So I'm so grateful. So thank you guys for joining. I hope you enjoyed today. Remember, join the Best Practices Association. Go there now to the App Store, wherever you're at. Search Best Practices Association. Start the journey today. Conversation continues back there in the BPA. You're going to see an amazing group of people in that community that are so willing to help and share great information. Join us at the Top Study Club. And if you tried everything and you're just tired, we can help you. We can put an amazing coach onto your practice and make you a better leader and improve your practice every day. So until we see you guys next time or you hear from us next time, keep joining us, keep showing up, and we'll see you in the BPA. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.